everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Lindsay, I am the fantasy fan.
And I'm Danielle, your resident romantic, and we are friends
till the book ends. And today's video, we are doing a really fun one where we are taking a Buzzfeed quiz that decides what we read next.
This is not sponsored by Buzzfeed,
No,
but if you do want to sponsor us, we'll accept it.
That's fine. Yeah, we're really excited because obviously this has not been pre-planned. We haven't looked at the quiz. We haven't looked at the quiz questions. So we are going in blind and seeing if BuzzFeed actually knows what they're talking about or if it's a load of BS.
Right.
So we are very pumped and excited to see what BuzzFeed's gonna
I'm a little nervous. You know, with BuzzFeed quizzes, they're kind of a shot in the dark. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're, I'll pass.
Yeah, I always take the ones that say, like, how many kids do you have? Either it's I have 38 or I have 0. So,
right.
Feel like it's real hit and miss.
It is.
But we are really excited. Danielle is going to ask me the questions first, and then we'll switch roles. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so you have to choose a major in college. Side note, she already graduated.
I did.
We have... Oh, right, I forgot I did too. We're focusing on you, Lindsay, okay?
Right, it's all about me.
Philosophy, psychology, art, history, anthropology, or music.
Well, I was a history major in college, so I'm gonna pick history. Good, we're off to a good start.
All right, choose a TV show. Black Mirror, BoJack Horseman, Jessica Jones, Twin Peaks, Jane the Virgin, or Planet Earth.
So, other than Planet Earth, the only one that I've seen out of that is Jessica Jones, so I'll have to go with that one.
All right. Where's your ideal first date? Hiking, coffee shop, dog park, movie theater, live concert, a bar. I would just like to make a guess right now. She's either going to say dog park or coffee shop. That's my guess.
Initial gut is to go with dog park, but I'm going to go with coffee shop because I think that would be a better first date.
This is true. Choose a podcast. Do you listen to podcasts?
I love podcasts.
All right. We are going to go with Criminal, Radiolab.
I love Criminal. I can go with Phoebe Judge.
Hidden Brain, Death, Sex, and Money with Anna Sale, Committed, or On Being.
I'm going to have to go with Criminal, a great podcast.
What's your ideal, parentheses, non-reading, pastime? Journaling, playing music, painting, playing video games, calling a friend, or working out?
Literally none of those things are anything that I do.
And, like, let's expand it a bit. So, like...
If playing music, does that mean that I'm listening to music or that I'm physically playing an instrument?
I would say listening to music.
Alright, I'll go with that one because I have not a musical bone in my body, so...
Alright, now we have to choose a book. Which, side note, I kind of usually don't like when it asks you to choose a book. It's spoiler. Alright, so we have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, The Vegetarian by Han Kang, Circe by Madeline Miller, which we know you've read.
Or is a book? Yes, I have read it. Recent video, we talked about it.
And you also like the cover. In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, and The Empathy Exams by Leslie Jameson.
I'm gonna have to go with Circe by Madeline Miller. That was such a good retelling.
What type of relationship most intrigues you? Female friendship, mother/child, teacher/apprentice, siblings, romantic, or mind and body?
I'm gonna go with teacher and apprentice. If we're talking about in books, I usually kind of like that.
I would assume that's what it's asking.
Yeah.
And vibe check. What kind of story are you looking for? Poignant? Gritty? Deep?
Sorry, I love gritty.
Trippy? Thrilling? Uplifting? Nostalgic? Surreal? Sexy? Sweet? Compelling? Insightful, sardonic, wistful.
Jeez,
that's a lot. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that many.
I'm gonna go with sardonic.
Okay.
I like a bit of a...
You ready?
Yes.
Sin Eater by Megan Campisi.
Never heard of it.
All right. 14-year-old orphan May Owens stole bread, and for that, she is sentenced to live the rest of her life as a sin eater, a person, always a woman, who consumes the sins of the dying by eating food that represents those sins. Sin Eater...
Oh my god, I read this book.
Have you really?
I read that book 7 years ago. I don't remember anything about it, though, but I have read it. But continue. Continue. I will reread it.
Okay. Sin eaters are forbidden to speak or interact with others, a particularly jarring punishment for May, who talks incessantly of whatever randomness pops into her head and craves the conversation of others.
You know what? I didn't read this book. I read a book called The Sin Eater's Daughter.
Maybe it was like a follow-up.
I feel like it's... We'll look it up later. I don't think they're related, but I think they have a similar concept. So continue. Sorry.
For the rest of the readers, let me finish the synopsis.
Sorry.
Okay. After her sentencing, she's apprenticed to another sin eater at the royal court, and May soon becomes immersed in a murder mystery. The atmospheric, historical fantasy setting, combined with May's jarringly eccentric personality, creates a novel as strange as it is captivating. So, historical and fantasy.
Okay.
Kind of your big deal.
And strange. Okay. All right. I can get on board. That sounds actually like something that I might enjoy. I don't usually follow protagonists that are like 14 years old. I feel like that's kind of young, but this I think feels like an adult book, maybe?
It has to be slightly more mature for a 14-year-old that has this kind of setting.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to see. I've never heard of this book. I did lie earlier. I have not heard of it. I read a similar book called The Sin Eater's Daughter, but they're definitely not the same thing. But I love a murder mystery. I like historical setting. So I'm kind of excited to read this one. I have not heard of it before, so I'm intrigued. So now Danielle's going to take the same quiz, and hopefully she gets a book that she enjoys.
Hopefully. Yours turned out well.
Yeah, mine turned out okay. Better than I thought.
I was going to say, okay, is like
I've also
mild.
never heard of it, so we'll see. Okay, choose a college major. Philosophy, psychology, art, history, anthropology, or music.
I graduated with a psychology degree, so I'm choosing psychology.
All right. Choose a TV show. Black Mirror, BoJack Horseman, Jessica Jones, Twin Peaks, Jane the Virgin, or Planet Earth.
The only one I've seen is Jane the Virgin, but I'm also wildly addicted to Jane the Virgin.
Love Jane the
I'm
Virgin.
actually in the middle of binging it. No spoilers.
Where's your ideal first date? Hiking, coffee shop, dog park, movie theater, live concert, or a bar?
Gonna have to be coffee shop.
Yeah. Choose a podcast. Criminal.
Side note before you start, I don't listen to podcasts.
She doesn't listen to podcasts, so you're just gonna have to pick one based on the title.
Which I can do. Hopefully they're well titled.
Yes. Criminal, Radio Lab, Hidden Brain, Death, Sex, and Money, Committed, or On Being.
I feel like Hidden Brain probably has like a psychological focus, right?
Yeah, it's produced by NPR, so it's probably like smart. Well produced.
Which I am of the genius class.
Yes.
Just kidding. I like the idea of Hidden Brain as a title, so let's go with that.
Okay. Hidden Brain. What is your ideal non-reading pastime? Journaling, playing music, painting, playing video games, calling a friend, or working out?
I don't know. I don't do all of those enough to be a pastime. I mostly only play video games with my boyfriend. I don't work out enough. No, you know what? I rock climb. So let's go with working out.
Okay. Choose a book. To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, The Vegetarian by Han Kang, Circe by Madeline Miller, In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, or The Empathy Exams by Leslie Jameson.
I've never read any of those books.
That's Leah on the Offbeat is the only YA book on there.
I know Virginia Woolf is a good writer. I haven't read her to know if I actually would like that. Let's go with Leah on the Offbeat, because that's kind of a romance one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm cheating it to hopefully get a romance. Just kidding. Just on that one, I was cheating it to get a romance.
Yes, well, we know what kind of books you like.
Right.
So. What type of relationship most intrigues you? Female friendship, a mother-child relationship, teacher-apprentice, siblings, romantic, or mind-body?
Let me see if the viewers know. Oh, yes, romantic.
Romantic. I could pick this for you. Okay, vibe check. What kind of story are you looking for? Poignant, gritty, deep, trippy, thrilling, uplifting, nostalgic, surreal, sexy, sweet, compelling, insightful, sardonic, or wistful?
It's tough because I haven't read a really, sexy, steamy romance in a while, but I'm afraid if I choose sexy, it's going to tell me 50 Shades of Grey, which not into, by the way. I don't think that was not a story that was good. I like sweet, but I also don't want it to give me a 13-year-old middle school book. So, I'm thinking about this too much, I feel like.
Yes, you have to pick one.
You're right. What were some of the first few?
Poignant, gritty, deep, trippy, thrilling, uplifting, nostalgic, surreal.
Let's go with uplifting.
Uplifting. Okay. Oh, think you're gonna like this one. Okay, so you got the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez, and this is a romance book.
Ooh, hello.
So, a woman loses her fiancé in a terrible accident 2 years ago. Since then, she's lost herself in grief. It isn't until she finds a dog in a crazy set of circumstances that she starts to become herself again. The only problem is the dog actually belongs to a famous musician. Ultimately, the book is about grief, growth, and loving yourself. So that, I feel like, was not a great synopsis of this book.
Is this YA or adult?
It's adult.
Okay.
I can't tell if you like it or not.
I'm not immediately pulled in when it advertises that there's grief and growth because, as I've said in my other videos, some authors write emotional growth well in a relationship, some don't write it as well, so I'm always a little hesitant with those.
If it makes you feel better, I have heard good things about this one.
I just don't want it to be too focused on self-growth, you know? Like,
yeah.
I need there to be some focus on the romance or else I'm gonna lose it. But, you know what? I can't change it. We are committed to the ones that Buzzfeed gave us, so I'm gonna go for it. Alright, so we both have our picks. We're gonna go read them. We will see you in a week and let you know how we turned out with them.
Yeah, see you guys in a bit.
Alright, it has been a week. Lindsay and I have read our books and we have some thoughts on them.
Do we?
Oh yes. So in the beginning of the video, we both read the synopsis that BuzzFeed gave us for the book that we were selected to read. Unfortunately, we found out that the synopses were actually fairly short and didn't really explain a whole lot about the book, so we're both going to give a little bit more detail about the synopsis. We're going to go over our thoughts, go over our ratings. Obviously, if you have read either of the books, make sure you pop into the comments to let us know if you agree, disagree, anything like that with what we say. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with me. I was given the Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. The synopsis that I found out was more accurate is that you start with Sloane. She is currently dealing with grief and depression as her fiancé Brandon died in a motorcycle car accident 2 years prior. She's still been struggling with it, hasn't made much progress. The only joy that she's starting to have in life is when she meets this stray dog. And by meet, I mean the dog jumps into her car in the middle of traffic. I really enjoyed that first part of the chapter where you're
cute.
seeing all that.
Yeah.
It's adorable, actually. She gets a ticket and everything. Which, that's not a spoiler. That's in the first chapter. I'm sorry.
So that's cute.
So she meets this dog, and it's bringing her joy, but she knows that it's probably someone else's dog. She checks the tracking chip, she checks the collar, there is a phone number on it, but when she calls it, no one answers. For 2 weeks, she keeps calling, she keeps texting, no one's answering. Move all the way to Australia or New Zealand, we have Jason, who is the owner of the stray dog. He's been hiking up a mountain for 2 weeks. He doesn't normally live in New Zealand or Australia, and he doesn't have cell service. So that is why he's not returning any of the texts or phone calls that Sloane is doing, but Sloane doesn't know that. Finally, they get a chance to connect over the phone. Jason's like, hey, I appreciate you watching the dog. I'll send someone over to pick him up. And Sloane is just like, nope, it's my dog now. I'll talk to you later. And she hangs up. And from there, it kind of starts this fun flirtationship that they have. Jason eventually makes it back to LA. He gets the dog back in his possession, but him and Sloane already have this connection. So they're working on building this relationship. While Sloane is still kind of going through her grief from Brandon, is she ready to move on with a new relationship with another guy yet? And also Jason is actually just starting to take off with his music career. He's becoming an aspiring artist, and he's actually kind of building up a fan base. So the book really focuses on the grief that Sloane is going through, the new fame and stardom that Jason is experiencing, and the two of them trying to create a relationship between there and seeing if they fit. So before I get started on my notes for this book, we are going to preface that there are going to be no spoilers for this. It's just going to be a basic review of some of the things we liked and didn't like about it. Overall, I gave this rating a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Let me explain. I really loved the first half of this book. It was unique, it was original, I loved the take on grief and depression that the author was writing through, I loved the style of the author. I loved the flirting that they were doing. Like, it was fun. It was teasing. It was challenging flirting. It wasn't like, hey, let's go home tonight. It was more of, like, a challenge. Like, do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm not describing it right.
There was good banter.
Right, yes, banter. So it was fun. It made me grin, and my cheeks were blushing while I was reading it. And I was like, I gotta keep reading. I need to have another page. Tell me more. This is fun. So I really enjoyed the first half of the book. The second half, for me, just went downhill really quickly. It started with something that Jason did that I thought was outrageous, that Sloane thought was outrageous, yet no one else in the book thought was outrageous. Which, again, no spoilers, so when you get there, if you've read the book, it's almost like unbelievable. I was like, what? Like, I made all those faces. I Snapchatted Lindsay immediately. I was like, I don't understand why no one is thinking this is wrong. Jason's not admitting he did anything wrong. He's not apologizing for it. And all of Sloane's best friends in the book were like, nah, cut him some slack. And I'm just like, that's not real. That's not real life. I get you're a fiction book, but that's not real.
Right.
And that really bothered me about it. So that was the turning point for the book, and it immediately went downhill. The second half of the book was filled with a lot of cliches that I could point to 10 other books on my bookshelf right now that have almost the exact plotline.
Yeah.
That being said, I still gave it a 4.5 out of 5 because the author's style was so original. I really enjoyed how she handled grief, and I thought that Abby really wrote it well for Sloane and Jason to handle together, but also for them to handle separately. So I enjoyed that part. I thought it was very original in the first half. It was too cliche for me. Yeah. And I'm still giving it a 4.5 out of 5 because the book was still well written. The cliches were well written. I've read too many books that have the exact same plot line. I knew exactly what was going to happen. To me, that's not atrocious enough to make it anything less than a 4.5. Everything else was perfect with it.
Yeah.
I just would change the cliche ending.
Fair enough.
So overall, I really enjoyed it. I don't know. She has another book called The Friend Zone. I may or may not check it out. We'll see.
You should.
Maybe. We'll solid maybe.
So the book that BuzzFeed chose for me, as you guys know, is The Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. This is my library copy because I didn't buy it because I had a feeling that I wasn't going to love it based off the synopsis, and I was right. Not to say I'm right with everything, but I was right this time. So this book is following a 14-year-old girl named May, and she commits a crime in this society. It's like it's based on like puritanical 16th century England. So think like everyone's buttoned up and is not nice to each other, and they're very God-fearing and shit like that. Especially the women in this society are treated very much as secondary citizens, and May commits a crime that's not worthy of hanging, in my humble opinion, but she gets put in jail and she gets sentenced for her crime, and the sentencing is that she is going to become a sin eater, and sin eaters in society are women who eat foods that represent the sins of the people who are dying. So for example, women who are in childbirth always have a sin eater come to them because they don't know whether or not they're going to live. Okay. So they recite their sins to the sin eater, and it could be like adultery or jealousy, greed, or other sins that are like that. And even something as simple as like coveting neighbors' possessions. And each of those sins, there's like hundreds of them, correspond to a different food. The sin eater goes and they are branded with a collar, and they get an S tattoo on their tongue. It's kind of gross.
Wow.
And they're not allowed to talk unless they are receiving the sins of people, and they're definitely treated as outcasts in society. So this 14-year-old girl is basically then treated like shit and thrown out to like be by herself. So basically what happens is that May, now that she's a sin eater, she gets called to the castle because a royal governess is dying, and she's confessing her sins. So the governess confesses her sins. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So she's eating, basic sin things like bread and cream and salt and things like that. But when she arrives at the eating where she is to eat the sins of the woman who died, she finds that there's a deer heart on the coffin, and a deer heart is representative of murder. And she knows for a fact, because she was there, this woman did not confess to murder. So she's now trying to figure out who's accusing this woman of murder. Did murder happen? And we're seeing now other people are going to start dying in the castle, and they're all going to have deer hearts appear on their coffin. So the whole plot of the book is basically May trying to now figure out who's behind this. Personally, I felt like it was very obvious from the start who was behind this, because certain characters just kept being introduced, and you kept seeing the same characters, but it was clear that they did not have a purpose at that moment in time in the story. So unless the author is just willy-nilly throwing in characters, it was very obvious to pinpoint who was going to become more important in the long run. It's all kind of confusing because the plot was never fully explained. Like, you were thrown into this book without the author setting you up for anything. Like, you don't get any background on the girl or the society. You all kind of have to figure it out as you're going, and then the author drops breadcrumbs, but I felt as if the breadcrumbs were either too small and I was really confused, or they were so obvious to the point where I predicted the rest of the book. So I just felt, I know this is the author's first novel, so I don't want to like bash it, but I just definitely felt like the author was either way too subtle or she was throwing it in your face, and there has to be some sort of compromise.
Yeah.
It was low stakes for me. I didn't feel connected to May. I didn't feel connected to her character. I thought that the plot was predictable. I just wasn't as interested in it as I should have been, and I understand why Buzzfeed said I would like this, because it is historical. I was a history major. It is a mystery. I like mysteries. It's gotten an interesting concept to it. Like, I think the actual concept itself sounds interesting, but I just felt like the execution was really lacking, and I kind of want to give this book a 2-star, but that feels really mean, so I might give it a 2.5 star. But this was not average. Like, this wasn't even a 3-star read for me. This was not average.
Wow.
Yeah, I just really didn't like it. The ending was really boring, and it was obvious, and there's no wrap-up to the plot.
Oh.
Really, like, it's very open-ended at the end, and you don't really find out what happens. Like, you can infer what happened, but
you don't like those kind of
books. No, I don't.
Either.
And she doesn't tell you what happens, so you kind of have to infer, and then there's an epilogue that's pointless. I don't know. Just the whole book to me was really lacking in execution. So, would I read from this author again? Maybe not. It depends on what her next book is at. I think it has like a 3.76 average rating on Goodreads, so it's certainly not a bad book for a lot of people. So if you're interested in it, maybe give it a go, but for me, this was just not a good fit.
All right, well, there you have it. Lindsay really did not like her book. I liked most of my book. Overall, Lindsay, do you think Buzzfeed chose you a correct book?
I don't think Buzzfeed did a good job, no. But I understand why they picked the book that they did, but it just was not for me.
So we'll give them like a C- for you.
Yeah.
BuzzFeed did about a B+. It had a lot of romance in it for me, but BuzzFeed, I guess, did not realize the cliche ending. So maybe in the future we'll try some more BuzzFeed quizzes.
Yeah, I'd be interested to try a different one and see what they give me, because this one was kind of a miss, but...
Right. But it's also kind of fun, because you had a first-time author, so it kind of takes you outside and exploring new people. So I would say it was overall a win for us. Yes. Maybe a lose for the book, but overall win experience.
Yes, it was fun. It was a good time. Yeah. Please give us a like and subscribe if you liked today's video. Leave a comment down below, like Danielle said, if you've read one of these books and you have thoughts on them, because we had thoughts. Yeah, thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys in our next video. Bye!
Bye!